All right, ready to roll here on a Saturday morning. Thanks to our friends at Insperity. Visit Insperity.com for powerful HR solution with exceptional fall through. Nice to have you aboard as we take you through what's going on in the world of golf here in week 28 of the PGA Tour season. And we'll get to everything you need to know regarding the weekend at the Scottish Open and the ISCO Championship. You have Chris Gotterup, one-time PGA Tour winner with a 2-shot lead going into the third round of the Scottish Open, which is already live right now on ESPN Plus, and it'll be live on Golf Channel here at 9 a.m. Central. Then you got the ISCO, the opposite field tournament going on in Kentucky. Chan Kim leads the way there, and that'll be live on Golf Channel at 4 p.m. Central. Charlie, how you doing?
Well, it's still hot in Houston, and I know you're up there in Philadelphia enjoying that nice easterly weather.
Yeah, it's been a nice week. It's been, hovering in the mid 80s. I got to play St. Martin's earlier this week. It was the site of the 1907 and 1910 U.S. Open. Nice, northeast track. I got out with Joe Burkhart, who is he founded Tri-State Golf Magazine and also played with the content director of Philadelphia Cricket Club. So getting in some nice golf. I've got my U.S. mid amateur qualifier here in a couple weeks at Cedarbrook and Bluebell. So getting ready for that. But the weather has been nice, and the weather has been nice over the first two rounds there in North Berwick, Charlie, at the Scottish Open at Renaissance, where you've spent a lot of time over the years.
I've been there. I was there in 2007 when the owner decided to buy it and to commit to make it one of the great courses in Scotland. It's right next to Muirfield, one of the golf courses on the Rota for the British Open, and over the last since 2007 they've really got the course on the market, and they've had some great championships just like we're having this weekend. And it's a group of people from Houston, Texas, Paul Sarvati, that has put together this beautiful golf course on the first of the fourth. So it's magnificent. I love it.
Yeah, what were your first impressions of this property there, just east of Edinburgh?
Well, they don't make new property, and there's not much around. And when they had this golf course originally designed, it was a family from California, and then they discontinued their work, and Paul Servati and his group came in and have just developed a great golf course, and it looks like it's been there for hundreds of years.
It sure has, and not a lot of rain or wind over the first 2 days in North Berwick. Among the three tournaments being played this week, the Scottish, the ISCO in Kentucky, and Live Valderrama, scores are the lowest at the Scottish. Would you say, Charlie, that's because of favorable scoring conditions? They're just off the coast of the North Sea this week.
You got to realize that one year at Muirfield, which is right across the fence from the Renaissance in the British Open, Tiger Woods shot 80.
Yeah.
And the average score was something like 83. The wind and the rain was just incredible. And so this year they have a benign golf course, and with that said, it's a lot easier to run the ball on these greens and fairways for all the players.
Well, and we saw it when the weather, is active. We saw back in 2022, we saw 7 under win at the Renaissance Club when Xander Schauffele won here. So it all has to do with weather across the pond as far as scoring conditions. Is that right, Charlie?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Scottish, the great quote one year, our great, as luck would have it, his name escapes me, but he finished shooting 80, and he asked the reporter that was interviewing him. He says, "Why don't you have this golf tournament in the summer?" It was like it was a winter day in the middle of the summer. So you never know what you're going to get. You just got to take what it is and do the best.
Now, Charlie, next week we have the final major of the year in the Open Championship at Royal Portrush. Will the players be happy that they got a little bit more of a mild weather week at the Renaissance for the Scottish in preparation for what looks to be it looks like they're going to have very turbulent weather at Portrush next week, rain, wind. Are they going to be happier, the players that are playing in the Scottish this week, that they did not get tested, from a weather perspective just yet?
I agree. I think you're spot on. The players will take a great week of weather rather than fight those conditions, especially, it'll get their swing off going into the Open Championship. So they're enjoying a week's vacation, and what they're going to get. And you just said it. The forecast for next week is really Irish weather on the sea.
Yeah, no doubt. Great work there. We did an exclusive interview with 7-time Cy Young winner Roger Clemens, who visits Renaissance often. I believe he's got to share a stake in the club, and he said that he actually hosted Xander Schauffele the week that he won in 2022, and the amenities and the way this tournament takes care of the players is really second to none. Is that right, Charlie?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The American hospitality in Scotland is well received.
We'll get to some of those headlines from the Scottish later on here from the leaders, Chris Gotterup and Harry Hall and Matthew Fitzpatrick. The third round is already underway across the Atlantic. You can tune into that right now on ESPN Plus and via Golf Channel in a few hours. Last week's winner in Silvis, Brian Campbell, missed the cut. He became the 6th multi-time winner of the PGA Tour season last week at the John Deere. Now, before the final round, we received word that 4-time PGA Tour winner and Houston legend Ed Fiore passed away at 72 years old, 29 years after he beat Tiger Woods in the final round of the 96 John Deere Classic. Fiore was born in Linwood, California, and grew up near Downey. He played collegiate golf at the University of Houston, where he was a part of the 1977 National Championship team. We're going to have Blaine McAllister on the program at 8:30. McAllister later joined the University of Houston team in 1978, also went on to win 4 PGA Tour titles himself. Charlie, it'll be good to have one of your disciples on the show to reflect on the great life of Fiore, who was a dear friend of yours for a long time, and my condolences to you and the Fiore family as far as that devastating loss is concerned.
Well, we appreciate that. And Eddie was a fighter, and he is quite an individual, and we'll have a few good things to tell you about Ed Fiore here in a few minutes.
He turned pro, and after his national championship run at Houston, had a successful career winning 4 PGA Tour events, including the 96 Deere. Charlie, real quick, and we'll ask Blaine the same thing, but what is something the younger generation needs to take away from the career of Ed Fiore?
Well, Ed Fiore was a midget in the land of giants. His short little guy, and he fought it with his putter. He won 2 tournaments, making a 40 and a 50-foot putt on the last hole to win the tournament. So he found a way to win, and it was with his short game. And he didn't let those big guys intimidate him. And he was a persona, had his own personality. But bottom line, Coach Williams from University of Houston said Eddie was the best fighter that he had ever had on his golf team.
And we heard a story, from that 96 John Deere Classic when Fiore beat Tiger. He was playing with Tiger in that final round. And I think you told me this one, Charlie. Ed did not look at a single drive that Tiger hit during that final round, just played his game. Is that correct?
That's all he could do. And that's a good advice for people that are playing with the stars or the better golfers. Just don't pay any attention to them and play your own game.
Yeah, interesting juxtaposition there, with Fiore passing away. Brian Campbell, the winner of last week's John Deere Classic, very similar game to Fiore, Charlie. Does not hit the ball a long way, hits every fairway, a fairly good iron player, and really just a special talent. Brian Campbell, the Illinois alum, on and around the greens, just a special set of hands. He won in a playoff over Emiliano Grillo. And Charlie, how about this? Outside of Campbell's wins this year at the Mexico Open and John Deere Classic, he hasn't finished better than 32nd in any other PGA Tour event this year. How do you explain that?
Well, it's his time. You just got to hang in there and keep doing what you're doing and trying to not get down on yourself. And it's an attitude game. And Campbell's got the attitude that he didn't care that he had some bad tournaments. He just kept working hard and he had his golf coach, and perseverance will prove you're a champion if you just hang in there and don't get down on yourself.
Well done there. He joins Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Ryan Fox, Ben Griffin, and Seb Straka as the only multi-time winners this season. And, as far as the Ryder Cup is concerned, Brian Campbell moves to 28th on the Ryder Cup ranking. Obviously, if with Mexico Open and John Deere Classic points being how they are, maybe he hasn't, as far as these Ryder Cup standings, hasn't maybe gotten the respect he's deserved. I mean, you talk about another multi-time winner this season as far as Team USA, Charlie, and you've got Ben Griffin there at 8. Scotty Scheffler is obviously number 1 on the Team USA Ryder Cup ranking. So the other 2 multi-time winners are pretty much locks to make the Team USA Ryder Cup team. If you're Keegan Bradley, and let me just take you through once again the top 6 on Team USA. It's Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, JJ Spaun at 3, the U.S. Open champion, Russell Henley at 4, Bryson DeChambeau at 5, Justin Thomas at 6. You look at the next 6 as far as potential captains picks. You've got Morikawa, Griffin, Bradley, English, McNeely, and Harmon. Do you think Brian Campbell should be in that conversation, Charlie?
Well, of course. He's going to have to do something extra special before the final choosing of the Ryder Cup. And as we know, Keegan Bradley's got a big problem himself. He's one of the top players. So is he going to choose himself and then get somebody to replace him as being captain? That's going to be this big $64 question.
Well, Charlie, he added another vice captain this week to go along with Furyk, Kisner, Simpson, and Snedeker. That is one Gary Woodland, a player you are quite fond of, a great leader. What do you think about that addition? And, you mentioned last week, and I agree with you. I think Keegan Bradley should call Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan to lead this roster. What do you think, Charlie?
Well, he's going to keep the title, but he's going to have some good advice from the likes of Tiger Woods and so the players in the past. So, and he's talking to the other past captains, what they did, what they didn't do to win. The guys, so it's gonna play out, and I'm glad I don't have that choice.
Yeah, we'll keep you up to date. Quick break here on the Charlie Epps Golf Hour, presented by Insperity. Back after this.
You're listening to the Charlie Epps Golf Hour on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Powered by Insperity.
From the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor and the golf doctor himself, Charlie Epps.
All right, Oklahoma alum Chris Gotterup leads the way at the Scottish Open after opening 68-61. Gotterup tied the course record yesterday with that 61. Bernd Wiesberger shot 61 at Renaissance in the second round in 2019. Cameron Chingale did it in the opening round in 2022. Byung Hanan shot a 61 in the opening round of the 2023 Scottish, and Richard Mansell did it in the final round last year. Let's go through where these favorites are at the Scottish Open, starting with Scottie Scheffler. He opened at plus 450 this week. He opened 67-68. He's at 5 under and a tie for 21st. Scheffler was dialed in with his ball striking over Thursday and Friday. He's 7 for 10 in scrambling. Charlie still having a little bit of trouble figuring out the fescue greens across the pond. And in his last 5 events in the UK between the Open and the Scottish, he has had below average weeks on the greens. I expect that to change at some point over the next 2 weeks with how well he's rolled it this season. Wouldn't you think, Charlie?
Sure. I think he's just getting used to the time change. That's a big jolt on your system. And he's got himself in position that he's shot low before. He can shoot at 60 and get right back in this tournament.
We have a little bit of audio pre-tournament from Scheffler. He said some wise words on Links Golf. Let's hear from the number one player in the world.
If we're practicing short game around the green, playing a practice round, I probably will use 2 clubs. I'll use a 60 degree and a 56. And here I'm bringing like 5 or 6 clubs, sometimes all the way down to an 8-iron. And to me, it's a much more traditional style of golf where you can tell that the game is invented over here, because if you come out here with an older gentleman who's maybe a 10 handicap and he can't really hit the ball very high, he can still play these golf courses because you can run the ball along the ground. And no matter where you are, there's always a shot to be played. I think in the States we have to deal with a lot of grain and stuff like that around the greens, and some heavier rough. And like when you look at, let's just compare the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, 2 totally different types of challenges. When you miss the green at the U.S. Open, you're basically going to hit a similar type of shot each time, where you're just opening the face with a 60 and trying to play like a bunker shot to get the ball close to the hole. Extremely difficult for anybody. It's something that I would say nobody's really perfected how to do it. And then you get over here and I miss a green and I'm going to go over there, assess the lie. Sometimes I may get a really clean lie. Sometimes I may get a thick lie. And with the thick lie, I'm probably gonna have to do more of my traditional open the face on the 60, play it like a bunker shot. I get a clean lie and, I may be using an 8-iron to pitch it up the slope, or maybe a 50 degree, depending on how much pitch there is in the slope. There's over here, I'd say there's just more options, and it's just a little bit of a different test than some of the tests we see at home. Like I said, it's a different style of golf, and it's something that's really fun for me because you get to be more creative. And a lot of times you're really forced into being more creative, just especially when you get a lot of wind around these courses, and you got to play a lot more shots than I think you normally would. And a lot of that's just based on the conditions. Like we said, it's a different style of golf that we play throughout the year. And so to be able to win a tournament on this golf course or next week, I think says a lot about a player, especially if they're coming over from the States. And, like I said, you got to hit a lot of different shots and, do things that we don't normally do with golf in the States, but I think it's really fun. I think it definitely brings kind of a new level of play to what we normally do.
So, Charlie, the repertoire of golf shots needed around the greens much deeper across the pond. Is that right?
Oh, yes, definitely. It is. It's the conditions are extremely hard at times. Wind and a lot of surface wind. The wind in Scotland, it blows, but it also blows close to the ground. It's an interesting thing. If it blows today, you watch the pant legs of the golfers, and they're really flapping in the wind. So, but as our good friend Scheffler explained, he's getting used to getting the ball up and down. He's one of the best, and I expect 2 good rounds on the weekend.
Would you agree with him that here stateside, as far as a chip or pitch shot, most of the time, the two clubs you're pulling out of your bag are the 60, the 60 degree and the 56 degree. Do you like to see your players, use any other clubs rather than those two wedges around the greens here stateside?
Well, see, I was taught to chip and pitch by an old Englishman, Mr. Williams in Argentina, and he wouldn't let me use less than a 7-iron.
Wow.
And I learned to chip and run and make the ball roll for 30 yards up at, and use the terrain as your ally and not fight it. And it's a fun game. But one of the things I try to teach my students here in the United States is learn how to hit the ball low. Learn how to hit the ball low to make good, solid contact, and then you'll be able to hit a lot of various pitch and chip shots. The pitching wedge is a great club to use over in Scotland and in the United States. You can do a lot of good pitching with the standard pitching wedge or the utility wedge to make your short game more in tune with making pars and chipping in every now and then, rather than hitting these fat shots with a 60-degree wedge. We should take every 60-degree wedge out of the amateur's bag.
No doubt. That's Scheffler. He's there. He actually just started his third round, and great stuff there as far as the short game is concerned. Scheffler just started his third round. He's even through 2 holes in a tie for 22nd at 5 under par. Rory McIlroy was the second favorite at 10-1. He opened 68-65. He starts the weekend at 7 under and a share of 6th. Then he's vying to become the first player ever to win the Masters and the Scottish Open in the same season. Closed his first round very well, Charlie. Closed with 3 straight birdies and carried that momentum into round 2 with 5 birdies in his first 7 holes. It seems like the driver is back on track, Charlie, hitting a lot more fairways, and his short game is second to none on this side of the Atlantic.
Well, I think he's very comfortable in Great Britain, and being a boy from Ireland, he's got 2 good weeks ahead of him to win that British Open title again, and he's going to be fun to watch.
He was asked in his pre-tournament presser about some of the success athletes around the world have had that are over 40 years old, and how the longevity of athletes is going up. You think about Keegan Bradley at the Travelers. You think about how Adam Scott has kept up his good play into his 40s. In the world of tennis, you think about Novak Djokovic. Still competing, and I know he lost yesterday, but still giving it a go. Wimbledon at over 40 years old. He was more from Rory on the great veterans of the world of sport.
I think it's one of the underappreciated things about any sport, and anyone, like you look at what Novak Djokovic is doing at Wimbledon over the last couple of weeks, or what some of those guys have done, or what someone like Cristiano Ronaldo still doing at 40 years old, or a Tom Brady in American football. That longevity piece, I think, is something that maybe isn't talked about enough, because once you get to a certain level, I feel like the journey on the way up is almost, I'm not going to say it's easy, but you have that momentum and you're riding that wave to the top. And then once you get there, it takes just as much work, if not more work, to stay there. Because, I think about my career, before I won this major this year, the last major I won in 2014, I'd never heard of Scottie Scheffler. So these talents and these players just keep coming and keep getting better each and every generation. And I think you have to adapt your game to make sure that you're able to hang with these generations. And, I feel like I'm one generation ahead of Scotty, for example, who's still in his 20s. And you see all these younger kids that are coming up, the likes of a Michael Torbjornsson or a Luke Clanton, or, these guys that, basically are ready to play at the top level coming out of college, and you have to, you have to make sure you're staying on top of what makes you such a great player, but you also have to look at the trends and see, okay, well, the guys that are playing well, what are they doing, or is there something that I need to add to my repertoire to keep trying to stay ahead of them? So I think that is a very important piece of it. And, this is, it's my 18th year on tour. I've been winning, professional events for 16 years. And, I just think my drive to keep trying to get a little bit better, or trying to look for little holes in my game that I can tidy up, I think that's a big piece of it.
So, Charlie, I mean, really between Rory and Adam Scott, Lucas Glover, Justin Rose, you think about even some of the guys in their 50s and 60s, Bernhard Langer, Stuart Sink, Padraig Harrington. It's really amazing to see these veterans leverage fitness and technology to prolong their career.
Well, Jack Nicklaus, he won his last major at the age of 46.
That's right.
Sam Snead was one of the great players into the 60s of his career, and Gary Player was longevity. So he's right. The game's getting younger, and but it's also getting older. The guys are sticking around. And I think that's good.
It's great to see, Charlie. We got to take a quick break. On the other side, we will welcome in four-time PGA Tour winner Blaine McAllister to reflect on the great life of Ed Fiore. And before commercial, here's a spot from our friends at the Texas Golf Hall of Fame.
Mike Booker, chairman of the Texas Golf Hall of Fame and holder of a record number of Texas Golf Association championships.
The Texas Golf Hall of Fame is the foundation of golf in our great state. So many great individuals, Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Kathy Whitworth, Ben Crenshaw, and many others, lead the way in making golf in Texas known around the world. Now you can experience the history of Texas golf digitally at texasgolfhof.org and share with your family and friends. See you on the course.
The Charlie Epps Golf Hour, powered by Insperity, continues
On ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Will Doctor and Charlie Epps.
All right, four-time PGA Tour winner Blaine McAllister is going to join us here in just a second. Blaine, joined the University of Houston golf team in 1978, a year after the Cougars won the national championship in 77, where they were led by Cougar greats like Mike Booker, who you just heard, and Ed Fiore. A great legacy of golfers there at Houston. Obviously, McAllister roomed with Freddie Couples and Jim Nantz while he was at Houston. So we'll get to Blaine here in just a second, Charlie. In the meantime, a couple listener questions for you. Here's Rob. Billy Foster has caddied for legends like Seve Ballesteros, Lee Westwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, and now Colin Morikawa. What does Foster bring to the table that a younger caddy would not?
Well, it's time and effort, experience, and success. He's had success with quite a few different players, and he's won in the United States, and he's won on a bag in Scotland. So he's got some success. And Morikawa, he's changed. His
it's his fourth caddy this year, Charlie.
Caddy more than he changes his socks.
Yeah, no, he started with JJ Djokovic, who caddied for him en route to two major championships, and then switched to Joe Griner, who started the year with Max Homa and is now with Justin Thomas. Oh, no, Matt Ministers with JT. I don't think Joe Griner's picked up another bag since Morikawa fired him. I'd have to go check on that. And then Colin had KK Limbaugh on the bag for one event in Detroit a couple weeks ago, and now he's on to Billy Foster. So Morikawa shot 4 over in the first 2 rounds at the Renaissance Club. He was there at the beginning of the week in the top 8 on the odds boards. Missed the cut ahead of the Open Championship, and as far as the putting and short game is concerned, it's definitely not the run up to Portrush that the 2021 Open champion wanted to have. But Billy Foster is, he is a guy who caddied for short game guru Seve Ballesteros, and hopefully him and Morikawa can get comfortable and Foster can have a positive impact on the 5th ranked player in the world. We now head to the progressive guest line and welcome in 4-time PGA Tour winner Blaine McAllister. Blaine, thanks for taking some time to join Charlie this morning.
Good morning, fellas.
Well, Blaine, we lost a legend.
We did, Charlie. We lost a true legend of the game as far as Texas golf and as far as University of Houston golf. And we're going to see. Ed Fiore was one of the all-time greats.
And a personality he was, and he loved to compete, and he wasn't afraid of anybody. And he was, the word cocky during his heyday, he was unbelievable. And he went up against, the likes of Tom Kite and Tiger Woods and Tom Weiskopf to get his victories.
Yeah, he was not. The man wasn't blessed with the best of ability as far as the body. He had a bad grip. He had a bad grip. He just had a lot of guts. And the one thing about him is he had a fight. He had nothing but fight in him. He had no back down. He won a national championship with the University of Houston in 1977. Went to the tour school, got his card right out off the bat, and then just went straight to the tour. Got married to Deborah, and they just got in the car and drove, and next thing you know, there he is, teeing it up on the PGA Tour. And he didn't know anybody. He had no backup in him. He just had natural, raw desire to play the game of golf. And
what? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, what also proved in the later years of his career, he became he candidate for a heart transplant, and he had open heart surgery, and he went through that procedure really incredibly well. and he fought it all the way to the end.
Yeah, it was. You know, he got dealt a bad hand. He had a heart issue at the early age of 50s, 40s. He was getting noticed that there was a problem, and before long, it was definitely he was going to have a transplant. He got through that, had a kidney transplant at the same time. I mean, just had a hard luck. But the unfortunate thing is cancer took over and took him away. But you know, Charlie, when he grew up in California, I mean, he grew up a raw young kid, just building playgrounds with his buddies. And that's how he made a living. And he got found down in Guadalajara by Aubrey Wolf, the guy from the University of Houston alumnus, who said called up Dave Williams and said, "Hey, I've got this kid you need to look at." And so Dave called him up, and we got him to school and sent him over to Wharton Junior College, where he played for a year. And he played with Phil Blackmar and Robert Hoyt and Robert Thompson. We're all there at Wharton. And then next thing you know, he came to the University of Houston, and the rest is history. I mean, he became an All-American and then off to the tour. But three of his wins are against Hall of Famers. I mean, he beat Tiger Woods after trailing him by a couple of shots where Tiger's obviously one of his first events. And then he beat Tom Weisskopf in the playoff at the Southern Open. And then he beat Tom Kite at the Bob Hope Classic. And then to win of all golf courses, Butler National, the hardest golf course you could ever play on, where he won the Western. I mean, you can't tell me this guy. I mean, he wasn't the longest of hitters. I mean, he was the second to last, distance-wise on the PGA Tour for his entire career. Then I think John Inman lost his card, and of course Eddie became famous for being the one that was not there. But he was he was now this last. But one thing I'll give you a quick story about Eddie Field. They're having a long drive contest over there at the first tee of one of the golf tournaments on tour, and the driving range just happened to be there. Well, they had 10 guys, and somebody had to withdraw, and of course all the long guys saw Eddie over and said, "Hey, get him to come over." So Eddie strode over to the tee. He said, "Hey, it's a long drive contest." "Sure." He looked at all other 9 guys and he said, "Look, I only got to beat one of you." And they all kind of went, what? Says, "Because one of you is not going to hit it in the grid, and I am." Sure enough, he finished 9th. He beat somebody.
How many fish do you think he caught in his career?
How many what?
Fish.
Fish?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Let's just see, how many did he go over the limit? That might be a better thing.
He knows the Gulf of Mexico pretty well, huh?
Yeah. In fact, that's where his ashes are going to be going into. The Gulf. They're going to have a little family thing. They're going to go off his brother-in-law's big boat, and they're going to dump his ashes out into the Gulf. And where he smiled, probably one of the biggest smiles you've ever seen, and loved life more than any, is being out there fishing and enjoying that. He also enjoyed hunting. Eddie, Charlie, he really enjoyed the outdoors, and he was America's guest, is what I called him.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his motto was last one in, first one out. So that meant if they had a corporate outing, he was going to get there last, so he didn't have to do much handshaking. And then he wanted the first tee time so they could get the first time out. And then he caught the first lane out. So I mean, he was quick with the wit, and truly one that got in the locker room that people just got to be around him. If he sat in the lunchroom with him, it was going to be entertaining.
Well, Blaine, I appreciate you interrupting your days of hunting. You're up in Montana to enjoy the summer, right?
Yep. I just took my 7-year-old grandson, to his first rodeo over in Darby, Montana.
Oh my gosh!
And he got to watch the bull riding, the bronc riding, and the barrel racing, and all. And then he looked up and he said, "Dada, I think I want to do this." And I said, "No, you don't, buddy. No, you don't. You don't want to be on a 2,000-pound bull and trying to hang on for your dear life." But we enjoyed it. Well,
that's great, and you're gonna have a great summer. But I appreciate you coming on and talking about Eddie and what kind of person he was, and a lot of people didn't know that.
Yeah,
he was a good guy.
He was He was probably the one. I mean, I could honestly say he was probably one of the most underrated talents, and got more out of it than anybody could possibly get.
Yes.
And you got to be proud of that kind of background as far as your life.
You got that right. Well, Blaine, thanks for coming on the show this morning. We always
All right, you
enjoy
got
you.
it.
And say hello to Miss Claudia.
I will. I appreciate it. Well, good to hear you.
Hey, thanks so much, Blaine. Have a great weekend. And before
All
we
right,
go
buddy.
to break, here is a 60-second spot from our friends at the Texas Golf Hall of Fame.
Mike Booker, chairman of the Texas Golf Hall of Fame and holder of a record number of Texas Golf Association championships.
The Texas Golf Hall of Fame is the foundation of golf in our great state. So many great individuals: Ben Hogan, Byron Nelson, Kathy Whitworth, Ben Crenshaw, Babe Zaharias, Tom Kite, and many more lead the way in making golf in Texas known around the world. Learn about the historic golf courses and the individuals that promoted the game through leadership, teaching, and passion. Texas and golf go hand in hand in the history of the game and camaraderie. Together we can honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire future generations of Texas golfers. Golf is a sport for everyone, and I encourage you to experience the history of Texas golf digitally at texasgolfhof.org and share with your golf family and friends. That's texasgolfhof.org. See you on the course.
This is the Charlie Epps Golf Hour on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Powered by Insperity.
Now from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, here's Will Doctor and the golf doctor himself, Charlie Epps.
Here we go now. The final groups in the third round of the Scottish Open tee off in just under an hour. Chris Gotterup and Harry Hall will be the final two ball out at 9:45 a.m. Central. Gotterup opened 68-61. Big hitter out of Oklahoma. Won last year in Myrtle Beach. And as far as his last 56 starts, his only top 10 in his last 56 starts has been that win at Myrtle Beach. So he's been playing a lot better here over the last few weeks. Not a massive surprise that any of the top three names on the leaderboard are playing well. Gotterup's been playing some solid golf. Harry Hall has been on a stretch of top 25s. There's only a matter of time before he breaks through for his second PGA Tour win. Nice start, 67-64 from Hall. And then Matt Fitzpatrick, the 2022 U.S. Open champion, starting to round back into form here. He opened 69-63. He will be out at 9:35 alongside fellow countryman Marco Ping. So we'll get to some sound, some interview sound from Gotterup, from Hall, from Fitzpatrick. Charlie, let's get to a couple more of your questions from the audience. Here's Dennis. Charlie, you coached Angel Cabrera in multiple Open championships. How did his prep and mindset differ when heading into an Open versus Augusta or a U.S. Open? And Charlie, this also goes for your friend who we just heard from, Blaine McAllister. How did that prep change as far as crossing the Atlantic to play the Open?
It really didn't change that much. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day, and you've got to, adjust to the time change. That's about the biggest thing when you go over to Scotland to play the Open Championship. And then as far as the other tournaments, they prepare the same way for each tournament. They don't make one tournament more important than the other. You got to stay more even keel. I mean, these players are already incredibly great at ball striking. Sometimes they might add another club or two to change, put in a 7-wood. That might be something they might have to practice more to get the ball higher, to hit softer on these hard greens. But I would say that most all athletes, they find a winning formula, and they do it the same all the time, and they don't vary from that.
Well done there, Charlie. Here's Martin. The weather at Portrush can be brutal, and the forecast for the Open next week is already calling for heavy wind and rain. Do you think the R&A should embrace chaos when it comes to scoring conditions, or is there a line that they shouldn't cross? That's from Martin there, Charlie.
Well, no, the game goes on. No matter what's happening, until the golf course becomes unplayable. If the greens get water on them where it's not draining and you have to putt through puddles and stuff like that, they'll postpone play for a couple hours and maybe try to squeegee that kind of condition off the golf course. If the wind is such where it's blowing so much and the ball can't stay in one place, or it's blown off the graph, off the greens and so on, they'll stop play for a while. But for the most part, golf is a game you just keep on keeping on, and you don't look for any excuses. You just accept what it is, and sometimes because of the bad weather, the scores are going to be higher, but it doesn't mean that they played any worse. It's just the conditions were such that it couldn't make those 50-foot putts turn into 5-foot putts. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, here's Hector. Charlie, Rory, and that does answer the question. Here's Hector. Charlie, Rory talked about players putting more pressure on themselves at major championship courses they are fond of. Did Angel feel that way?
No, I don't think that was our experience. I know going in defending a major championship is very hard because your time is taken away from you from the press point of view, and you've got to go and do all these press conferences and so on and so forth. So if you look at the history of the game, there's not many people that win back-to-back majors for that reason.
And we'll we have some audio from Rory talking about the pressures of different golf venues, and here he was pre-tournament at the Scottish Open.
I think it's the same thing. If venues in golf matter to you, it maybe puts a little bit more pressure on you. So, I'd love to win an Open at Portrush, absolutely. I'd love to win an Open at St Andrews. I'd love to win a U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. I'd love to win a PGA at PGA Frisco. But it's like there's venues in the game that just mean a little bit more. Frisco might get there one day. Who knows?
Rory just couldn't help himself there, huh, Charlie? Had to take a little shot at Frisco, didn't he?
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
All right. Well, we as far as the Scottish Open, you're going to turn on your TVs here at 9 a.m. Central and start to see these final groups funnel out on the golf course. Chris Gotterup is your leader, as aforementioned. His one victory came at Myrtle Beach last year. It's his only top 10 in his last 56 starts. Here was Chris Gotterup at the conclusion of round 2 after the 61.
Chris, well done on a fantastic round of golf. Give us your insight.
Yeah, I mean, like we were just saying, I'll take a 9 under any day, and relatively stress-free for the most part, which is always nice. And yeah, I mean, other than 16, I really think I played really well today, and yeah, I didn't even do much wrong on 16. Just didn't make a birdie on a hole that you'd like to, but really just solid. It felt like I hit a lot of greens and was in, whether I was in the fairway or not, I was in the right position, which is kind of the key around here, I feel like. And yeah, I mean, it was just a good day. Nothing else to say, really.
If you go back to the start of the day, did you do anything different in your warm-up, or were you feeling particularly great today? What was the mindset before you set off?
I've had a hard time getting up all week, so it really took some motivation getting up at 5:15 or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I definitely got off to a slow start yesterday and finished strong, and then tried to carry that over in today, and obviously, found a little something out there today. So yeah, hopefully just keep it rolling this weekend.
And if you look at your season more broadly, there's plenty of positive things. You've not had any top 10s, but you've had a bunch of 12th place, top 15s, top 20s. How would you summarize it so far?
Yeah, like you said, I think it's a mix of, very good and also a bit disappointing. Obviously playing good to come top 20 a bunch and top 25, but there's definitely been rounds or tournaments of 3 good rounds and 1 kind of So just trying to really pile on good rounds, and been putting better this week, so that's a big big positive there. So yeah, just trying to carry that into the weekend and to the rest of the season.
Great stuff. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
So Gotterup, Charlie, really since the end of March, since the Houston Open, he has put together quite a few top 20 finishes. He's a 25-year-old and really a bright future ahead of him. But it's interesting. He mentioned that time change, and it's something that, he's still getting acclimated to here, 6 days into being in Scotland.
Oh, yes. It really turns your life upside down, and you got to prepare for it before you go. Eat correctly, and there's certain tricks that professionals will do, but getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're used to at 9 o'clock, so it's very difficult.
Charlie, great work today. Thank you, Ryan, behind the 1s and 2s. Everyone enjoyed the coverage of the Scottish Open. We'll talk to you next week at the midway point of the Open Championship at Royal Portrush. Everyone have a nice weekend.